everyone. Welcome back to Mentor Musings. I'm Dennis. I'm joined by Brett and JC. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning, Dennis.
Excellent. So I've got a question from one of our listeners, and they were asking about when is the best time, or actually, when is the worst time to go into a venture? For example, like when they shouldn't go in, the opportunity is not right or whatnot. But I wanted to get your take on when is the best time or worst time that you should be actually going into a venture, and when you should actually just like step back. Like this isn't the right time. This isn't our purpose or whatnot.
Yeah. JC, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. So I guess the answer of when is the wrong time, or how do you know when it's not the right time to make the first step? So I guess there's two sides. There's kind of some macro considerations. So depending on the idea that you have, depending on your venture, is the market timed well for you to take the step forward? One thing I'd say, and you've heard me say before on here, is that usually the window of opportunity for your idea in the marketplace is not as narrow as you might think. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not optimal times to launch and suboptimal times to launch, but it's usually not binary. It's not, well, I must launch within this window or I cannot launch within this window. So I'll put aside those macro trends because that's really going to be specific to each venture, each sector, each industry. And kind of their seasonality. So the timing of if and when can be really subjective. Let's talk about the local issue, right? Because that really is the most important thing. It's when are you or you and your founders, your co-founders, ready to take that step forward? So a couple things. I can't tell every individual when is the right time for them to do it because this is number one, an investment, right? It's an opportunity cost. It's a capital cost. You're going to be putting your blood, sweat, and tears into this. You're going to be investing time into this that you could be spent holding down a full-time job or, spending time with your friends and family or whatever. So that opportunity cost that you're evaluating has to be individualized. But I do think what you tend to see is when you are in a position of being able to actually take a step into entrepreneurship, usually maybe because you either lose your job due to unforeseen circumstances, like in the example, when you have like a global economic crisis, a lot of people go towards entrepreneurship in part because the economy is not really sustainable for them to go and find a replacement job, but also in part, there's some element of, kind of YOLO, you only live once. This is the time, this is my opportunity. So I would say that if you find yourself in a career pivot moment where you've either topped out at your existing job, either from an earnings or a progress standpoint or from a knowledge gain standpoint, or you now find yourself not fully employed at your previous employer, that's probably going to be a window where considering a new venture is a good idea. And that would trend with what I think other people, kind of in the global entrepreneurial community will target. And then the other thing I would say is in terms of whether or not you're able to take the step forward, it's really a career choice. It's really like, is starting a new venture a good idea for you? I mean, the vast majority of people who want to be entrepreneurs likely shouldn't be entrepreneurs. And it's not because they can't, it's not because they don't have the skill or the knowledge. I mean, it really is kind of a DNA level makeup. You have to be a little crazy to be an entrepreneur. I mean, you're working 100 hours to avoid working 40 hours, right? You're going to be worrying about and sweating this out for years and years and years to come. And the payoff can be huge, but it can be really far out. So, I think there's almost kind of some introspection that's required to make sure that you really understand, hey, is this a lifestyle and a career choice that suits me? So putting aside the macro, I would focus on the local and say, what are my current career prospects? And also, is this a lifestyle career that's really going to align with what I want to do?
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And, I actually wrote a little bit about this a week ago or 2 weeks ago. I forget when it was, reasons not to start a company, right? It's on the personal side. Well, why don't we answer the question? There's probably no perfect time to ever start a business, right? So when you go, but have a plan when you do it. Those seem to work the best. If you have to do it out of necessity, sometimes you have to, but that just puts a different level of stress on what you're trying to do with the business. Haven't answered the question yet, but I do think your point about the personal side, right? If you're going in, if you have a family, a wife, this has to be a family decision to do this, right? I mean, if you're going solo and your wife is against this, or your partner or spouse, whatever it is not on board, it's going to make it twice as difficult, because you're going to be dealing with the stress of the business. You're going to be dealing with the stress of the home life. And I do like the idea, and JC, I'd love to get your opinion on this second, is, side hustle is thrown around way too often. But I think if you have an idea for a business and you haven't jumped in yet, there's things you can do to talk to potential customers and start to line up and do some of that market research before you actually go live and build into it. Because I know there's different schools of thought say, hey, do I just quit my job and go all in? I think that's the romantic side of it. But I think the prudent side may say, hey, there's some things you can do to start testing. Is this really a need to have product or a nice to have product? How big is the market? And some of these things you can do while you're still in a corporate career. But if you're heading down that path, it can help you plan. But JC, as you mentioned, sometimes corporate roles dry up, and hey, this is the time to go. So I guess my biggest advice to that is, one, be prepared, right? If that time comes and you're forced to make a choice, it's not just from a cold stop. And there's a lot of things you can do and spend that time now. And two, I think the other advice is, don't do it if you're looking to get rich quick. So few and very rarely have we come across anybody that, hey, overnight success, the company's great, I'm on easy street. Man, it's a grind, and you have to enjoy what that grind is. And you're going to have to put the work in to do it. Now, the benefits, and you're working for yourself, you get all the upside, but there is no hacks, right? So you just have to be mentally prepared, I think, is the biggest thing if you're going to go all in.
Yeah. And I dovetail, a comment on that. It is definitely not a get rich quick scheme, even if it's a side hustle, by the way. But especially if it's your main focus. I love that movie Wall Street. Gordon Gekko, greed is good. I mean, and by the way, there is some kind of truth to that, I guess, to some extent. But really, what greed is just impatient ambition, right? You need to. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, and especially if you're targeting, some type of really exponential return, we're not talking about a lifestyle business, which, by the way, even those can take a while to kind of get into the black and be profitable with, and actually become a true lifestyle business. But I would say this, that, the question of when not to, Dennis, if you have an immediate need to make this money, or an immediate expectation to generate this return, then no, that is not the right time to engage in this. One other thing that I would bring up and mention too is, there are some people out there who not romanticize, but they gravitate towards the entrepreneurial lifestyle. And sometimes people are compelled to become an entrepreneur before they have their specific business idea. And I think what Brett just mentioned about the idea of maybe an on-ramp to entrepreneurship, that's a really great scenario. If you're in a position saying, hey, I think I really want to be an entrepreneur, but I've got 12 ideas and I don't know which one to pursue. Maybe you use that on-ramp opportunity to figure out which one you want to pursue, or really drill down on which ideas resonate with you the most and align with you the most in terms of what you're looking to get out of the experience. Then you take that full step forward. I've seen some people literally quit their jobs and go, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And I ask them, what are you going to do? But I don't know, I've got 12 ideas. And so if you're in a position where you're gravitating towards being an entrepreneur, but you don't know specifically which idea you're going to pursue, that would be an area where I would not take the full leap in, and go with more of kind of an on-ramp, like Brett was saying.
So what would you suggest to those entrepreneurs that they do have like those multiple ideas? What would you suggest that they do in being able to narrow it down and find specifically what they should focus on?
I would talk to those customers, or your potential customers, man. There's no better way than to get direct feedback from the people you think you're going to be selling to. And most people are open to giving feedback back, right? Hey, got this idea. You're an expert in this industry. Love to get your feedback on this idea I have. I mean, there's no quicker way. I wouldn't say it's 100% accurate, because there's sometimes the customer doesn't know what they want until they know there's another alternative. But that would be step one for me, is really understand your target market.
Yeah, I would agree with that. In fact, Dennis, what we should do is, right after this episode airs, we should record our next episode talking about go-to-market and those initial milestones. And then that way, whoever's watching this, just watch the next video in the queue, or the next listen to the next episode in the queue. And we'll go into more detail about how you do that. But yeah, I think you take the steps, and you give yourself an opportunity to learn who your buyers, who your users, and who your consumers are. And sometimes it's all one group, but a lot of times you may have different stakeholders involved. So in addition to just learning about who's our target market, whose value is really what value are we offering that really resonates to that target market, there's also just kind of understanding the dynamics, particularly in B2B, in Brett's world, where you have different stakeholders, gatekeepers, decision makers, champions, all of that. You got to understand the sales and decisioning organization with where you're selling. So it's not just who's my target market and what's my value to them. It's how do I actually, kind of scale my way into this organization or into this sales process. But we should post our next episode as a companion to this, Dennis, and let people listen more about that go-to-market strategy.
Awesome. I'll definitely do that. And also, you know what? I think there could be a third episode on how important sales is, and being a salesman of your business is a definite topic that I think people need to really listen to as well.
Yeah. Not only salesman, the pitch man, the hype man, the hype woman, hype. Yeah, I wrote some little bit on this morning on this, talking about, get known, get interest, get sales, right? Super simple in theory, but actually executing against that is the key to not, because I think you can hustle your way to the early sales, and this is a whole different episode, but it's really expanding that network and reaching folks that don't know you. And then it's a longer game for that. So yeah, let's table that for a future episode.
Sure. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for watching as well. If you like everything that you hear, please like, subscribe, share to your friends, put it on Facebook, put it on Twitter, whatnot. You can also find us on all streaming platforms for podcasts. So thank you, JC. Thank you, Brett. I appreciate you every single week.
All right. Thank you, Dennis.
Thanks, Dennis.
Talk to you guys soon.